Hello everyone from Studio 10 in Kilkenny. Another coffee with Ania and Dan today. Hello Dan.
Hi, how's it going?
He will blow my mind, yeah?
We'll try.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. Maybe first of all, tell me where you're from.
Well, I was actually originally born in Romania, but I'm living in Ireland most of my life since I was 3. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's something again interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I have another person here from Romania, but who actually grew up in Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Book An Answer for Everything. Can you tell me more?
Yeah. So it's quite a broad topic, and it took a long time to kind of figure out what all the answers were, and
Yes.
I guess nobody can have all the answers, but my aim was to figure out there must be something in common to everybody, that we all have, that I guess structure or the tools we could use to explain things that are, because everyone says, oh, everything happens for a reason,
Yes.
and they
And
they
nothing
don't
happened without a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how this is started? Because, like, how older you was when you decide, like, focus about that subject?
So I would consider myself kind of a spiritual person, and I've always been on a journey to figure out what else is out there in the world. Is there more than just what you see? And you're going to work, or you see your parents when I was a kid doing the 9 to 5, and I just thought there has to be more to life than this. And I guess coming from my background, I kind of feel like I grew up quicker than my years, and I kind of came from a different perspective where I was like taking things in at a different way. I thought my view was kind of unique in that regard, I would think. So that's what really pushed me, and I kind of explored with religion. I explored to just figure out, well,
Are you very religious?
I've kind of come full circle at this point, and I've realized that there's good things in religion, but the overview of the whole thing is, it's not, in my eyes, it's not good to repeat. Religion is just repetition of an ideology, and that's not good. I think if you scale that back, you'll have the tools to. There's no point in actually just repeating something off, and then you're not doing what you're repeating.
Yes.
There's always this hypocrisy where it's okay, God will forgive your sins if you can. It's okay if you do terrible things during the week. You sin, and then just because you say I repent, then it's all. I mean, it's for nothing. So a spiritual journey is really what I'm at, which is more it's going inwards and finding yourself. Actually, is what spirituality is. You're not following an indoctrination, and that's
because
what
it's like, for me, I am not religious, but I believe there is something, and I always say I believe for the good people, and it doesn't matter if you are Catholic or you are atheist. For me, it's very important what kind of human you are.
Yeah, that's huge, because I think. And if you go by how it feels, I think ultimately what I've really learned is that my sister has young kids, and they were asking her, is God real? Recently they asked her, actually. And she was wondering, how am I going to answer this?
Exactly.
And I said to her, if you want to say something, say to them, well, how does it feel when you do something good inside? And that's God speaking to you. So, because I feel that we are an extension of the source. I don't use the word God because God is very religious. It has connotations, and for some people that's not good. And I'm trying to break the barriers down, so there's no gaps between the spiritual world and the science community, actually. Because what you'll find is, in time, spirituality and science are the same. We've just been convinced that they're different, and they're just not. And when that's where the mechanics of manifestation come into play, and the theory for everything, really.
Yeah. And do you believe for energy?
Yeah. Nikola Tesla has this famous quote, everything is energy, vibration, frequency, and if you understand that, you'll understand the universe. Very true. And I've kind of got to the meat of what he was getting at in that time. So it's everything.
It's a big, actually, yeah. And thinking positive, what do you think about this way? Because some people, they are really struggle with some problems, and they are always negative, and then everything actually bad happen around. Do you think we're supposed to more be positive, even if we have some problems,
Yeah, so I think it was Confucius said that those who say they can and those that say they cannot are both usually right, because it is true. I think of us as like we are an extension of the source creation of everything, and we are creators in our own right, and it's our belief that we're limited is really what's limiting us. So we are limitless, and it's only when we impose these things on ourselves do things work out or do not. But the big thing I want people to know really is that you are happening to the world. The world isn't happening to you. And we think, oh my God, I'm a victim of my scenario, but nobody is. And that's a hard pill for some people to swallow, because when you're in a victim mentality, life is tough. Because it was because the neighbour down the road. That's why I didn't go to school on time, or I, my tire went on my car because someone else left nails out, or whatever. I mean, that's basic. But so long as someone else is there to blame, you can wipe your hands clean. That attitude isn't really helpful, and you'll find that it's a regressive attitude. A tendency to self-destruct is what regressive really is in my eyes. And
sometimes when we hurry up at home, everything is going wrong. You can't find your key for your car, and then we are nervous, aggressive, and it's everything. If you stop for a second, take a breath,
and take control.
Go easy. But it's hard. It's like the same, like if you have like a big problem and someone tell you, oh, stop thinking about this, you can't change, it's really hard to work with your brain to really think positive. We can be like, okay, I'm thinking positive, but then you lay down and you say, oh my God, I don't have enough money. Oh my God. And I think so more that situation, there will be more bad things just came into you.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because you attract what you are, not what you want in life. So what you are is the summary of everything that you've ever thought of and all your experiences put together. And I use the term frequency, because frequency is a numerical value that can be representative. And we are all omitting a frequency whether we know it or not. And everything, even the table, everything has a frequency. And we say that it either oscillates at a higher rate or slower. So if it's oscillating fast, it's a higher frequency. It'd be like tuning a radio from all the way up. And when you turn the dial right up. So here's what's fascinating about information and every knowledge that exists is that if you see these days, there's a lot of censorship, there's a lot of issues with, who's right, who's wrong, and people who argue, and people are arguing way more at the moment, which I don't like, right? But there's a simpler way of deciding.
And everyone is specialist, actually. Everyone, they knows the best, and everyone.
And exactly, we probably should be more humble with each other first, and listen and listen to their corner. So I see it like, if you can use it in terms of numerical value 1 to 10, okay? So 10 would be like it would be all the data possible in the whole universe, and then 0 or 1 is like very little information. So all a frequency is information, data, just how much volume of information, not good, not bad, at a very basic level. So when someone's trying to communicate their point I do believe everybody's the hero of their own story, and they want to be, like they really are, like nobody's trying to be.
But we are.
Bad.
We are. If you go actually for all your life, it's like the same your life. You are born in Romania. You live in Ireland. I was born in Poland, and my life in Poland was completely different than the life at the moment. And sometimes, like if someone just look at me, you will see, like you are just a normal girl. You're doing something, and that's work. It's completely normal. But I think so about myself. Like I make huge progress where I am now and where I'm from.
Yeah, and do you know what that is? It's because it's resistance. It's something different. It's the you don't know what you want unless there's some, like for example, if you were a soul floating in the air and there was no resistance, no inputs, nothing, you might be in peace for and that's fine. But all we want in this world is to experience. Experience. So whether it doesn't have to be good or bad, and that's all subjective, whether it's good or bad. For you it might be good, for me it might be bad, depends on what that. So I think we should all respect everyone's journey in that, right? Because we've all written that
stop
for
judging
ourselves.
Actually, because sometimes the people judging the other one, like, oh my God, that woman is so productive, she's doing a lot, and this one woman, she always cooking and take care of children. And I always say, maybe she's happy with that.
Exactly.
Maybe this is everything what she wants, and then make her so happy to cook on Sunday, just put the flowers on the middle on the table and feeding her family.
Yeah.
And it's nothing wrong as well.
No, that's beautiful. Like that's great because. Exactly. So everybody should be allowed to do what they want and express themselves in whatever they want.
But it's easy to judge. It's very easy, especially when you are on the beginning, some journey, and you try to do it something different. And they always say like, you are too old, or why you're doing that, you have no idea about this. And it's like, leave me alone, I just want to try. And it doesn't matter how I'm doing, I'm do it.
Yeah.
And it's mine thing, and I don't, I don't care about the judgings, about the comments, but it's still some very talented people when the situation like this can cut their wings.
And you know what? If you have an issue with me for whatever it is, it's actually an issue with yourself.
Yes.
And that's because there's unsolved trauma that is there.
Yes.
And it's like a survival mechanism where you're trying to you attack someone else just because it's a reflection of what's not right in you. So when you're trying to talk to anybody, and if you're trying to speak a truth and it's so frequency discordant with that person, it offends them almost. So it's, we're running on subconscious programming. So it's all subconscious. So it's repeating, and often because if we do the same things as we've always done, there's a very predictable future, and that's the same as we've done before. So we can't expect something to change in our lives if we are doing the same things. But we are stuck in that almost a fear state to branch forward and take the next step forward. And that's very difficult and counterintuitive when it comes to manifestation. And
and do you give a lot of speech, like you talk with the other people about this, because it's very interesting, and I think so it's young people, they need that, they need to listen you, because when we're young we really think about the society, we really care about what the people think about us. I think so sometimes when we're older we realize it's not important, and I think as well, like sometimes it's too late to understand. Like
it's wasted. It's like what is it? Youth is wasted on the young.
Yes.
Because wisdom should be given to the young in an ideal situation, but they don't have it when they're young.
Yeah, it's the same like your parents tell something to you. Yeah, you understand. But not when you're 15, when you will be 40. You just realize, they're actually right. I work with some few young people and they are amazing. And it's actually amazing the way when you talk with someone young and you see like that simple situation make them nervous, or they are so like, oh my God, what I did. I say like, it's only a mistake.
They've built it up, and they've built it up so much in their heads. That because partly though a lot of parents tell their kids they're amazing all the way through and don't give them reality checks.
True.
And that's happening more recently in the last 10-15 years maybe. And there's a problem because you don't build resilience. Resilience comes like it. I think you, as a parent, and I'm not a parent myself, so I'm not fully aware, but I have lived a life and I realized that.
If I can ask, how old are you?
I'm 34.
34, and it's different. When you grow up in the 90s, it was really different life than it's at the moment.
Yes.
I think so more appreciate for everything. We didn't have much. But we didn't expect as well. At the moment, it's really difficulty. And I can understand as a parent, because I want a better life for my kids. But sometimes I'm just sit down and thinking, if I gave to my child everything, they will be really appreciate.
Exactly,
you want to give everything, but also you have to just always, I think so, remember to make them appreciate for the life, for this is what they have.
I think you want to teach your child you don't want them to never feel any pain. You want them to have the resilience to deal with the pain that comes.
But I think so sometimes the bad experience, they are good because we learn something new.
Exactly. It's the greatest it's the greatest step to spiritual growth is resistance and going through trials and tribulations. That's how you grow faster. But it does. I think you can still learn from other people, without having to gone through it yourself. Because we only have a certain amount of time on this earth. So if I had to go through everything that everyone else went through, I'd never get through it. So the best way is to really listen to people, and you can really expand your consciousness.
And your book, and what you can tell me about that book more, make the interest for the people, like everyone will just run and get your book after the podcast.
Exactly, Well, it's not officially finished yet.
That's all right.
But I just said I'd do this and get it out there, because it's very frustrating when it's all in your head and you never get to talk about it.
Do you think it's book for everyone? For young, for old, for teenager? Yeah.
Because we're all living in the world. Like it's literally, it's a set of, it's this principles of how everything works, how everything connects to everything, cause and effect. And more importantly, it's changing the paradigm of getting out of the victim mentality and understanding that we're in charge. Nobody else is, and we can we are creating every day our reality. And but I wanted to go deeper in that. It's because you see there's a lot of this out there. But what I'm getting at is no, there's physics that you're in. Like, for example, if you and I were able to leave the planet somehow, right? And we were in some ship and we were going to the other end of the universe, for example. Found a planet, an inhabitable planet we could live on. What would happen is we would suddenly have created our own time bubble. It's called the ship internal time. And what we would have, there'd be a time slip from because it's all relative to like the people on Earth. So we would be off somewhere else. But we could determine, this is how powerful we are, we could determine the laws of our own physics, literally, because we are the source. So what that means is that if we decided on the planet, the gravity would be different, by the way, as well, but every time would be different. And if we decided we could walk through walls, that would even be possible. Now, that's a hard one to kind of get your head around. How is that possible?
Yes.
Because we need to understand what we are first. And what we are is limitless. And the reason we are limited is because we believe
the sky is a limit.
Yeah.
Only, yeah.
I know, but there's lovely catchphrases and everyone will go, oh my God, that's a lovely thing, and they'll forget about it. But when you really get the gravity of what I'm trying to say is that we are literally making the physics of everything.
Yes.
And because, like the table here, is where you would say there's a greater source attention on the table because it's oscillating a slower vibration, right? But actually, I would be able to put my hand through the table if it speeded up, or I would speed up my frequency because then I would be transparent and I would be able to go through it. They've done it with the monoatomic gold. It's a type of gold. There's two types. The gold we're all used to, and this monoatomic gold, and then the gold when you heat it up. It actually goes out of the visible spectrum.
Yes.
And that's a perfect example of what would happen to us if we were, and that's where we get the concept of angels from, and fairies and demons and everything, because it's only in a different bandwidth of information that we just don't have access to.
We find every answer we find in your book, how even we can change our life. Yeah,
I mean, the knowledge is there for those who want it. Those who seek will find it, and that's the reality. It's like, and that's part of one of the laws. Actually, is that
it's not like maybe like someone will be read your book and then finish and they say, okay, tomorrow I just changed this one and this one, and my life will be completely. It's not maybe more like if someone wants to find something in that book, they find it.
No, the tools will be there. It's the physics of it. It's the actual physics of how it works, laid out without opinion. This is how it is. Here's how cause and effect actually is, and how time works. The simple answer is that you will be able to get it. And people think, well, you know, I when I do this and this, I'll be enough. I'll be able to achieve my goals.
Yeah.
And that might be true because we have to. In this world, we have physicality as well as just consciousness. So first, we would say there's a thing called the ether, which is where everything comes from. That was theorized in the late 1700s, and then in the science books, and then they took it out of it conveniently. But the ether is 30% of all science that isn't actually being talked about at all. And so for example, when scientists are doing experiments and they're trying to determine whether anything really, there's what they don't realize is that they're impacting the experiment by their consciousness alone, because they've decided to set an intention to actually do the experiment. And in their heads, they usually do have an outcome they want actually on it. It's very unusual to be unbiased, and that alone is impacting the thing. So we need to start including this ether because it's critical for all science, and that's what Nikola Tesla was talking about with the 369 principle. And this was utilized through our ancient past, all the way from the times of Newgrange in Ireland to the pyramids, all of the places, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
Yes,
all of it comes from the same knowledge. This is 12,500 years old, this knowledge, 13,000 years old.
Do you have experience if you go for some place and you really feel some energy, like a positive energy or negative energy, or you just somewhere and something's happen?
Yeah, well, I know
because for some people, they will be listening, they say, oh, okay, those of two, they are, you know, but it's in my experience when we have the new house with my husband, I was just came inside and I just was like, yeah, that's my house.
Yeah, good feeling. I had the same
and
one.
Then my husband actually came in and they said, it's too small and this and it's wrong. I say like, no, I just feel like I'm at home. It doesn't matter. It was super messy on the beginning, completely not like in our style. Like even, the floors or anything have to be filled, everything renovate. But I was feeling, yes.
There's a good vibe in the place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you have the same experience?
Definitely. I bought a house 2 years ago, nearly at this stage, and this first thing, when I walked in, I knew immediately. There's a feeling. It's not, like you said, it's like or something before you go in. Because I tried a few other houses and I was like, yeah, it's okay, I could deal with it. But, and then straight away when I went into this place. But, because you could...
We have to follow this, tell me.
Do we which?
Do you have to follow that? Like
instinct,
if you
that feeling. Yes. We have a load of extra senses we'd have access to if we just tried more.
Because brain is amazing. Like if we only know like how to use.
So our brain, I would say, is the hardwiring.
Yeah.
But see, there's in Hermeticism, it's like ancient Egyptian teaching, which I'm kind of basing a lot of this concept on. What I've come across is that there's no such thing as physical matter. Even when you go down to an atom size and below it, what they are is they're just protons and electrons moving in spirals, but there's no physicality to it. It's just gas, and there's a nucleus, yes, but ultimately there's a thing called the double slit experiment. What they did, which is where they shot a photon particle, this is the smallest particle of light, through a cannon, a gun, and they had an end plate on it, and there was two slits in the plate, so they shot it through. And they realised when they did the experiment that it ended up in a certain pattern on the back of the wall, on the last between that hole. And then when the conscious observers, when the people who were doing the experiment left the room and they shot it, it behaved differently. It went in a different pattern. But when they went back in the room again, it went back to the original form.
Yeah.
So that really is the most basic version of how our consciousness interacts with matter. So everything, like the energies matter, everything matters because we are always interacting
with it. Even the rocks or anything, like a grass or
what we view
water.
Yeah. So like this is a quartz crystal I brought. So quartz crystal is super intelligent. It will be a second density being, I would say. So I look at us in densities, not in dimensions. They're often confused. So a density is a collection of perceptions, ideas, ultimately, is what it starts with, that form these living things, right? So your first density would be your grass, with your trees, rocks.
There are some people which when they hold the tree.
Yeah.
And then some other people who just say they're laughing about them. But I think so. It's again energy from nature.
Yeah, and we've been so disconnected from nature at the moment, which is it's terrible. Like, but it's always talking. It's so intelligent, like how mushrooms communicate underground, and how trees will tell each other sense impulses to far miles away to the other trees that there's drought coming. Or it's incredible what's going on. And Avatar was actually very good. The movie, kind of a visualization of what that might be, and actually it is true. It seems to be. So, going back to the densities, this is a quartz crystal. That would be a second density, and then we would be considered third density. And if you were to keep going, fourth density would be like the lower astral realm, you might call it. But fourth density is like the non-visible but entities. You heard of demons. You have your demons. Well, that's where that comes from, because they would live in that realm. And this knowledge, as I said, was known and it was forgotten about over time. Fifth density would be our angels and that kind of level. And sixth plus is just higher density beings, which are, completely out of our frequency width. But just quickly going to this is that this quartz crystal is scalar, is what that means. And we are scalar too. What all scalar means is that you can see more of the densities. So, for example, fifth density can see fourth, third, second, and first, but first can't see fifth. And this is how it works. So that's why it's so important to expand your consciousness and don't limit yourself with how much data you're taking in. Just allow things to come in and don't be so definite on your opinion on something. Let more information come in, and I guarantee everyone will go. That's one of the key things even in the book, because when you're arguing with somebody, first of all, you're speaking, you're saying stuff that you know already.
We have to always stay with the open mind. It's like the smart people, they always learn all the life. Someone stupid, they think they know everything.
Exactly.
And it's important again to listen and be open for something new, because you can meet somebody who will show you something what you know, just in a different way.
Exactly. And you're always learning. And when we've been on this journey, it's you have to take I had to do the same. I had to take in the most absurd concepts, and then the most seemingly logical concepts, and see could they talk to each other. Was there anything in that at all? And actually there was, but you have to, it was a kind of a filtering process where you're like, well, I can keep that seems credible. I'll hold it in the maybe pile and take more information, and I might have to discard that later when new information comes way down the line. That's okay, because I'm not trying to find out, I'm not trying to be right, I'm just trying to find the information, what it is.
Yes, you don't say you know everything, you just want to show like how you find your information and just share.
Exactly, yeah. That's really important for me anyway on my journey. So yeah.
And do you think everyone have their own rock? Like everyone have something, you know, like
so
like you say, talisman?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny. There is a thing called a philosopher's stone. You heard of Harry Potter?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, these concepts actually come from things that are real, which is the funny thing about it. A lot of movie concepts that we think are absurd and way out there are based in some level of truth. Anyway, not all of them, but some of them. But there is, it's basically it's alchemy. So alchemy is, you can create, it's about inducing a frequency into the rock that matches you. So in this, if your intention could go into this quartz crystal, and it is, it's absorbing our data effectively, because our intention is our frequency, and that's going into infused into this. But what crystals do is they amplify what you are. So that's why in the kings and queens of old used to wear the crowns, and on it, what do they have? Jewels they had on the top, because that was considered a direct link to source, God. So that they had apparently the most direct link, even though everybody does. But that's where it comes from. So it's interesting. It's all linked, you know.
Yes, that's true. You have something else here, yeah?
Yeah,
what?
So we have a lot of stuff.
Actually, this is like my first guess, which one came in with the ready question. But you know, guys, my English, I can't read everything, you know, and I'm just afraid I will pronounce in the wrong way, and Dan will not understand what I said.
So I think we covered some of this. So
that's actually very interesting, because like I'm saying, like I was really looking forward to have that conversation with you, but I was also, I want to just get all information from you to show to the other people and how to create my question. And you see, this is what you said.
There you go. Because I
maybe and you came in with a question.
But that's how it worked. But so basically, if you think of, this is a really simple way. You know, on the phone, there's a guy called Rupert Sheldrake. He's an interesting character, but he's done some studies on this where it's like, okay, you go to the phone and you're going to ring, and that you're going to ring Mary, whoever Mary is, your friend. And but she rings you first. And she's like, I was just thinking about you. Yeah,
exactly.
And but see, what these are not in my eyes. There's no such thing as coincidences. It's just unexplained, unexplained events. But actually, everything has a reason. Everything. I don't even believe nothing is.
Even the
chance.
bad things once happen to us.
Yeah, because nobody is a victim to the bad things. On some level, we chose that, and that's a hard thing to get your head around, because if it's
hard when it's something very painful happening to you, you know?
Because it's a game. Ultimately, this life is a game. It's just a game of life, and I believe that we have a reincarnation ability.
But how we can avoid those really bad things? I don't say like if you know, like your car is broken, but it's really something sad happened.
But even
how we can avoid?
But even something simple like your car breaking down, you're you would say a vibrational match to that, which means that it works like an actual matrix where the energy values have to match. And if you're coinciding, you're crossing over, and that intersection is similar, then you become a link to it, and that's why the event happens. Even walking across the road, getting hit by a bus, you had it coming. Even and that sounds crazy.
Yeah, I heard about this. It's sometimes when you're more afraid about something, they will happen to you.
Correct. Where energy goes, where your attention goes, energy flows. That's what they say, and that's very true. And so that is actually a really important point, in that once we start rewiring our brains, stop thinking that we're victims of everything. You really can take control, but it's instant. There's no it doesn't need to be in 10 years' time when you finally get. The reason things take longer is because we ourselves block ourselves, and we have our own resistances, and that's because our subconscious belief systems, they're the hard things to shed. If we can't shed our subconscious, like there's things that, like when you're a kid, like you grow up whatever way you grow up. Let's say if you grew up in a household that was really traumatic, or there was some abuse, where there was violence, let's say parents, dad hitting the mom, for example, terrible situation, or alcoholism is involved in that. what happens is, as a child, what you'll do is you're ingesting those frequencies, because what happens is we're in a soup of energy. So like if you think you're emitting like a bubble of energy, and ours are now crossing over, so because we have to have a commonality. That's even when we're talking, we have to meet at some level to even have anybody does to have a conversation. And when you're growing up and you're experiencing that, you absorb that into your DNA, because what home is not what's good for you. It's what you grew up with, what you know best. It's the frequency of what you know best. So when let's say a girl and her dad was the one beating her mom, she'll grow up and she's exposed to a lot of that, and she's found safe tactics to try and help herself and survive ultimately, because that's all people are trying to do. But when she goes to find a partner, she's going to find someone always, because that's what she knows. It's called the law of mirrors. You're attracting exactly back what you are, not what you want. So what you are is the collection of ideas and understandings you have with yourself. So she'll go off and she'll find a man that probably will hit her or do something terrible, treat her really bad, and her friends will come to her and say, listen, you need to leave that man, he's terrible, and don't do this. But actually the reason she'll come back is because it's home, it's her safety. Even if it's really messed up and we would all want her not to be there, she'll always go back. And because she knows no other way, unless she's removed herself physically from the situation, because then she can overcome that herself, the frequencies, and build her energy back up again.
Some people, they can make very big progress. They can grow up in very tough family, but they can be very different in the life. They can have like fantastic kids, fantastic wife or husband, but it's not much.
Well,
usually it's like all the same. If you grow up with the family with alcohol experience, usually you are the same for your family. It's like they say like, because the alcohol, it's genetic.
See, I wouldn't say. Now this is going to be controversial. I wouldn't say that most of this is not genetic. I would say, but
no, I don't think so. Genetic. I just, like you can sometimes see the situation. Someone is grow up with the family when it's alcohol, and they do it. They always say like, I never do with that, but end of the day, they are really the same, like own mother or father. But then, and then sometimes you can see somebody who make a huge progress, and the progress which one you don't make just like that, they make like for another tree, like
and like it comes down to the individual, and I would say the consciousness of the person, that how much they can be resilient or not, and how much they can take on those same challenges and overcome it. And that's sometimes what people come here to Earth for, is because they want to experience what that resistance feels like and the trauma of that, so they know, are they strong enough to overcome it. And that's an amazing, exciting challenge. Like it's like it could really be compared to a computer game in that regard. You have but although you only have one life. Here,
unfortunately.
But I do believe that our souls are eternal, because we are the source. And if the source created everything, I'm not saying it in a religious context, but if you want to take that yourselves, that's fine. I'm okay with that. And I respect whatever people believe as well. I mean, whatever.
I always say the same. Sometimes it's tough because some of the people, they are only believe for their own God. They want to really change you. And I have the conversation a few years ago like this there was a couple of ladies. We know each other very good, and we work together, and always very successful, and we do it like a lot of really good projects. And there was like a simply, conversation. One of the girls, they say like, if I die one day, don't bring to my graveyard the fake flowers. And the other girls say, I just want to be turned to the ashes, and someone can just put me in the ocean. And they ask me, what you think? And the girl actually say first, before that, one girl said like, it's not good, like if you're a Catholic doing something like that. And then I say like, but I don't believe, like I believe only for the good people. And she was saying to me, and I say, I'm really shocked you are not Catholic. And I say, and what is changed? I'm still the same person.
Exactly.
But I saw like they really, like she was shocked because I say I'm not Catholic.
But that's our belief system, right? I mean, like,
that's
and
true.
That's fair enough, like. But I would think that we carry our beliefs into the next life. So we're just disembodied, is what I would say. It's not that we're actually any different. And this is where I don't like what religion has done. That what they've told people is, if you don't do this, and this step, you won't be enough. And that, in my eyes, is a regressive concept, and it's not good for humanity. Really bad, toxic, actually.
It is.
Because it disempowers them and says that they're not enough as it is. That's where guilt, shame, fear, they're all very lower vibrational concepts, and they will never help you grow in spiritually or any other way. So So think of it this way: imagine you got hit by a car or whatever, God forbid, as they say.
I'm really afraid because it's so many things happen. Like with you, it's like really improve you for the last like a few minutes. You improve. It's everything is happened to the reason. Maybe we just forget about the hit by the car.
Well, I'll just say it won't happen.
I'm really
no, but it won't. You're not a match to it. Don't worry. You got other things planned.
Give me that rock.
The crystal ball, exactly. No. But in the case of, let's say someone died, not you. Let's someone else.
Okay.
We gotta keep you safe. Okay. We don't want to keep you.
We don't have any list today. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's say the person dies. And we have this, and you hear some of these like near-death experience stories, and a lot of them are very common and similar, actually.
Yes.
But what you'll probably find out, and you might say, "Well, how do you know he never died?" But just wait. Only when you've experienced that by words.
But I'm really afraid about that moment.
Why? Why fear?
And I think in that way, like the people who they are Catholics, yeah.
Yeah.
And they are believe it's something else behind. The better life it's after the death.
Yeah.
I have that's actually like the fear, like I'm really afraid of that moment. First of all, I really think the life is beautiful, and I always think if I have enough time for everything, because I want to do it lot of more what I did already.
Yeah.
And I say like it's actually sad, like one day you are just disappear.
But see, that's what I.
And then it's I believe for the energy.
Yeah.
And like.
Yeah. Like my original thoughts on this were like, if you think of a tree and the tree falls down, and then someone uses it to turn into paper, and then someone burns the paper. All that energy is not gone, even though you can't see where the burning of the paper went.
That's true.
It's still there. We're just out of our visible spectrum.
Because something's happened with that energy. We are the one huge energy, and when we die, something's happened with that.
Exactly. Think of it like that. Yeah. We're releasing out of our shell, and that's how I see it. We're just in a fixed point of attention now. But our consciousness is the source. We're just experiencing a version of what we think. So let's say when we die,
yes,
we come out of the body. You know that your body's there, and you see people weeping, and you even see you actually go to your own funeral. So you're going to your funeral. Imagine that, looking at yourself.
But you believe
there.
For that?
Oh yeah, fully. Yeah. And
do you have experience when someone die?
Yeah. And
they came to you?
I being honest, I saw one ghost, if you want to call it that entity.
Definitely everyone will think like we are both.
Of course, but that's fine. But I can only go from what I know for myself, and that's as authentic as I can be, is from what I actually experience. Because I can't tell you I've done something and I haven't.
Yeah.
But I did see something once, and I was in a really tough time, and I thought it was an entity, a spirit, or and I feel like they in your dream. This is a good. If people who don't believe any of this, I ask them to do this. Here's a challenge: before you go to sleep, when you're in theta sleep, just theta brainwave state, when you're lying down and you're about to go to sleep, that's the ideal stage where you're influencing the bridge between the etheric field and your physical world. Ask. I know it sounds mad, but ask, if you believe it or not, an archangel, Michael, or one of those, to actually meet you and talk to you, and or any angel, because it's the quickest way. We know what they are, in a sense. We have a visualization of what that might be in our head, even if you don't believe. And you are definitely going to have a really powerful dream, but you have to set that intention before you go to sleep, because they are everywhere, and there's no such thing as time like we know it. So that's why when you're in that astral field or the etheric field, there's no such thing as time. So all time is as a frequency. It's not a destination. So in theory, by the way, time travel is very possible, because all you need to do is type in a numerical value into your machine, and it's called the law of mirrors. It instantly brings you there.
I was actually very, like a person when I heard someone say like, oh, when my father died, then I remember the moment when he came in, something was moving.
Yeah.
Oh, the same like my friend, she said, like when her father died, that night she was sleeping and she heard from the kitchen like someone just moving the box where he always in the morning just take a bread and just put the kettle on. And I was always say, yeah, right, that was your imagination. Yeah, I was very close with my granny. My granny was always very important for me, and I grew up I was just waiting for Friday to go to my granny.
Yeah.
And my granny actually, before she passed away, she go for the coma, and she was for the long time in the coma. And My son was small. He was nearly, I think so, 1 year old. And because he was very, like a baby which one wake up every night and, like every 2 hours. And my husband was working. Then I was sleeping in the second room and my husband was sleeping in the main bedroom. I remember when I just lay down and I was feeling someone came into the room and staying on my head. And I was like thinking, what's wrong? My husband's name is Christopher. I was like, oh, God, that Christopher, he's mad. And I just turned, and the door was closing. And someone just closed the door.
Yeah.
I was wake up in the morning like he was in the breakfast. I say, are you mad? What you doing? Just came in and then midnight to our room just watching us and then slammed the door.
Yeah.
He said you were crazy. I never came into that door.
Yeah.
I said listen, I was feel like you just watching him, staying beside the bed, and you closed the door very loud. He said, no, I'm not. And he was just looking at me.
That's
After
amazing.
2 hours, my mom called me. The granny was passed away.
Yeah.
In the night.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and that was a moment when I start laughing if someone tell me some, very, very unbelievable story. Yeah.
So you don't, often people who die, every time they carry the beliefs that they had when they were alive.
Yeah.
But we think, oh, you're just dead, you're in heaven, everything's rosy. That's the idea of it. No, you're still exactly who you were. So if you decide not to work on yourself in this life, you're going to feel, most people, the reason they reincarnate is they feel guilty of what they didn't do. And then they go back themselves. But everything is free will. We're not forced to do this, but we just are so guilty about it that we do it ourselves. But in the case so your granny would have been literally beside you there and seeing you, but she's like a bioenergetic plasma being. It's and they talk about this in some movies, and actually there's truth to that.
Yes.
And they're just out of the visible spectrum, but they can, because of their attachments to you is so great, that draws them into the physical a bit easier. At that, the veil is thin at that point because your frequency is quite similar because there's a love binding you together. So they will hang around. Actually, if you are really stuck, they will physically hang around beside you when you're experiencing things to try and help you in their way. And they can't, because they're not physical, they find it hard, but they can do certain things. But it's not healthy for the dead person to actually still be doing that for too long.
Yes.
They're better off to move on. It's better and for themselves to grow and continue on. They're not in pain or anything after that. And it's a nice thought actually to think that there's not that. But do you know where the idea from purgatory came from? Where in the church, what they've done is, so that would be the lower fourth density. So lower fourth is more where there's entities and everything. There's a lot of people, this sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people today who they might have died that's where ghost stories come from. They've died in some very unusual circumstances, in haunted houses, all these stories. They are actually there, but what they've done is they have, because they're in trauma, it's like a trauma, they have manifested the world exactly as it was when they were alive. And it's living parallel to us. All things are living in tandem. There's no separation between all densities, by the way. But they're living, and they've created the world but it's a duller version. And that's what we would call limbo. So it is actually a real place. And there's a whole civilizations of dead people communicating and working with each other because they're a close frequency match. So that's why everything is a shared agreement upon the physics of where they're at.
Yeah.
Because they're all in that kind of a depressed state, and everything is duller than they were. So they're afraid to move on in case they go to hell or whatever their belief systems are. But the only thing that limits the person is the belief that they're limited in that space. So if they wanted to get out of that immediately, they could. But they don't realise that they're trapped. So that's the interesting thing. And
it is. It is.
So I would always say, I wouldn't use the term rest in peace, because you don't want them rest. You want them to fly and be soar, actually.
I always say I want to be somewhere where it's hot.
Yeah. But that would be it. And here's the thing: if you believed in Jesus as you're alive, or you believed in the Buddha, even,
yes,
or anything, Krishna, or any of those, actually they will arrive when you die. And why is that happening? Because you are manifesting them as you remembered in life. So you're carrying your belief systems, and you're literally creating it, because you are the source, creating that, and that the version of it will match exactly what suits you, and you think it's happening to you. But it's not, because you're happening to it. You've created it, literally, into existence at that moment, and you don't realise it. And that's where the mechanisms of control happen with religion. They teach you that actually shouldn't happen that way, that everything's happening. And you can have entities that try and convince you that that you aren't enough and you need to go back and reincarnate.
Are you happy with your life? Are you successful?
Yeah, I've got...
in your own opinion, you know, because of course someone
Yeah.
else can say like,
What is success exactly? What's
exactly.
the measure? Yeah.
Actually,
Happiness is
sorry, I have the conversation yesterday. I spoke with one of my clients and I said to her, I really wish to have like enough money. And she said, what it's mean enough money?
Yeah, what is enough? Yeah. Well, actually, they did studies in America and they said the number was $75,000. They did in California, some studies. $75,000. It was based on just enough to survive and a bit. Most people don't actually need millions. After when you make past a certain amount of money, it doesn't matter anymore. People just want their needs met.
Yeah, it's for me. It's more to have a free head, to not thinking if I have enough for the next bill or enough
the rainy
for
day or something happens.
For holiday,
or,
you know, it's in that way.
Exactly.
I never think about that way. I want more and more and more. Of course, I have my dream car, which one costs a lot, and every night when I go to bed, I just see myself and I drive one day.
See, I did that too,
and do you have your dream car?
Well, I do. I have a great car, and I love car. I've been very much I love. But what I'm saying, I got the experience. I got to drive a Lamborghini at 200 miles an hour in Germany, on the autobahn, and that was one of my dreams, to be able to drive a supercar. Did it, and I've driven a load of them now.
My husband always say I was dreaming about him, and this is why he's perfect.
That's lovely.
Yes. Yeah, but about yourself, you are happy, yeah, with yourself.
Like, yes, and I really am, because I feel like if I know myself enough, and I'm always working on stuff. Of course, you always are, but I feel like when I'm with people, I'm really there. And I think a lot of people are not doing that, and that's where the depression starts setting in. It's because they're just not really connecting with people. They're surface, going to the motions fast, go to this next, and I got to do this. But when you're thinking of the future, you're living in anxiety. When you're thinking of the past, you're living in fear or regret, even. So if you can just be, you're actually fine. And apart from that, like, I still have stuff I want to achieve in my life. But I'm actually content right now. If it ended all now, I'm happy. I actually am. I really would be. And you know, and
I always say, if everyone is healthy, we have everything.
Huge, yeah.
That's everything. It's done. Of course, then you have a moment in your life when you just sit there and you think, that one could be better, this one could be better.
Yeah.
But end of the day, I think so. We're most supposed to be appreciate if we are healthy and in our family doesn't struggle with any, health
issues
problem.
Or,
I saw the wave from from the people who work here behind the camera. I think so. We have a very long chat.
Yeah.
You have something else here. Can you just tell me a
quickly,
few words?
I brought this. This is, I think it's a Tibetan bowl. But what it is I wanted to just explain, in Egypt, they used to actually use this bath that were made like this, and they used to put water in it. Because water, we talked about the ether today, water is the closest thing to the ether that exists, that's in our reality.
And water remember.
So
you can say, like, some people say the water remember everything.
Yeah, and if you, in the Bible, it talks about the waters of the heavens, above the heavens. And actually what they're talking about is space, because space is a liquid. And that's really what the ether is, in a high frequency. So what they used to do is they put water into the bowl, and they got into them themselves. And they were healing baths, is effectively what they were. And I chose this one. There's loads I could have choose from because it matched my frequency. I don't know why. I liked it more than other ones. Don't ask me why. So imagine you're in this, and that frequency is going into your system. It's actually repairing DNA. And this sounds woo, but it's not. But it's really, because if there's no such thing as physicality and everything is just frequencies, and you're inducing a frequency that is good for you, I guess, matches you or brings it up a bit higher, why wouldn't it be good for you? And this is where I think a lot of future of healing will come into it,
Definitely you have to come on back to me.
Yeah, there's a lot more to talk to.
Yeah, I can see that actually. It's a lot. And definitely I need your book.
Yeah. Great.
And this is like, you improve what you said. I will blow your mind. Yes, definitely.
And there's a lot of stuff.
Is anything else what you want to say?
No, well, it might be about 3 months before I'm actually really close to getting this done. I have an Instagram page, but I don't really have a whole lot up on that about that yet. Just yet,
if someone want to actually just follow you or just get some more information, where they can find you?
I think the Instagram is the best, to be honest.
All right.
Dan_Ryan4 is what it is.
Definitely, you can find the post on my Instagram, my Instagram,
The page.
our Instagram page, Coffee with Ania, and you will see the link to Dan. If you wanted to just talk with the Dan, why not?
Yeah, I'm happy to share any ideas with people who are interested.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. It's
And definitely you will come back here, all right?
Yeah.
Yes, just
Exactly.
promise,
When
all
I'm done-
right?
When I have it in front of my hand here, especially.
Because I think so we made a really long podcast, and it's so interesting, and everybody will be happy to see, but we all need more, yes? Of course, don't forget to follow Studio 10 and follow as well the Coffee with Ania, and see you next week. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you. Thank you.